Hello, everybody. Welcome to another special episode of XPlicit Materia, the podcast where a nerdy drummer talks to his friends and, in some cases, meets new ones, kindred spirits that he feels after watching and listening and just intaking all of their content, feel like they know this person and they're kindred spirits. And, ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce Michael K. He is a fantastic producer, musician, drummer, all-around nerd culture enthusiast, amazing videos, amazing content on his YouTube channel. I discovered him on TikTok and I just never looked back. It is incredible, his stuff. If you like any sort of nerd culture, talented musician stuff, please check out his stuff. It is incredible. Welcome, Michael K.
Thank you. I really appreciate that intro. That was awesome.
Dude, first of all, how do you say your last name? I've been saying
Klodzinski.
Klodzinski. Okay.
Yeah.
What is that, Polish?
It is Polish.
Look at that!
Right. It's funny. Like that's really the most Polish thing about me. Like I did like a DNA test thing or whatever a couple of years ago, and I'm like, I don't know, like 10%. 8% Polish or something like that. It's
what else are you? What sort of mutt are you?
The one thing that sticks out to me is it said I was like 7% Nigerian or something like that.
Well,
so
there you go.
But,
I guess in some sense, I guess we'd all kind of be, some African, because that's where humans kind of came from.
Right. Yeah.
Dude. So what's up, man? How have you been? Like, I want to just say I love your stuff. It's, what really clicked for me when I saw your stuff. I was like, wow, this is not only is the music really, not only are you very talented in as a drummer, and apparently you play a bunch of other instruments, which is just impressive. I can only barely play drums. I can't play I can't play any other instrument. If I hold a guitar, I'm like, what do these do? I don't know. My fingers can't do the thing. But not only that, but your production value is just top notch. It's fantastic.
I appreciate that.
I really want to know, like, I think, by the way, I think my favorite things of yours is Darkwing Duck, the Darkwing Duck cover,
dude.
And Space Jam.
Okay. Dude, I really, really loved both of those. That particular version of the Space Jam theme, like I have always loved that. If you've never heard it, Barkley, shut up and jam, whatever. It's so good. Back when I was streaming drums, we would play that all the time. It's so good. I love those two covers and the Night Trap cover that I did.
Oh yeah,
the Night Trap theme.
That Night Trap one was good. Like, I just love you had to like put on the wig and the costume. Like, it just puts it all together.
Right. So I haven't actually talked about this at all, but like all these are like different characters, and I plan to they actually have names, but I haven't really brought it to life just yet. But at some point I'll introduce them all. But like, you got Rod, who is he's the percussionist, and he's kind of like hyped, like coked out of his mind. And then you got Humphrey, he's like the chill saxophone player. And then you got Todd, who's kind of like the 80s hair metal like guitarist. And then me, apparently.
Does that guitar actually work? Are you
yeah.
Oh wow, that's brilliant. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, years ago, like in 2007, 2008, I was in this funk rock group, and we would open up, and we would like had a buddy band we'd play with. I can't recall their name, but they were very loud clothes. We wore loud clothes too. That was when like sneakers were in again, like really bright sneakers were in, like Pro Keds and the like. And so we were all about that life. And this band had two guitarists.
That's awesome.
And it was fucking awesome. It was so cool. I miss those days. But yeah, every time I see a guitar, I'm like, that's
it's so funny. Like when I was like in high school or something, I just thought guitar, it was like, that's so lame. And now I'm like, that is the coolest thing I have ever seen.
It really is. Like, let's merge two instruments together. Why the hell not? It's a brilliant idea.
Exactly.
X is like bass drums. I don't know.
Right.
But what's like, So obviously you're very talented in all the instruments. Like what has been your musical journey? Like, did you start on drums? Did you start with like guitar or piano first and then move your way up?
Yeah, this is a whole thing. So my mother made me take piano lessons starting when I was about 4 years old. So thank you, Mom, even though I did not enjoy it at the time. I constantly complained about it, but I took piano lessons for probably about 9 years or so. And then in middle school, I picked up the saxophone. My grandfather was actually he was like a touring jazz musician. So he toured with like a big band, and he opened for Elvis once.
Oh, dude, really?
Yeah.
Dude, it's funny that so your family is a musical family then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So dude, this is why I knew it. You and I are like kindred spirits because my parents are musicians or singers rather. And they toured, and my dad is an Elvis impersonator. That's how that's awesome. I've had him on the podcast years ago when they visited, and it's just a hilarious podcast. If you guys are into Elvis, please just and he's just dad, and it's just dads are fun.
Yeah.
And so like my whole life, like he was an impersonator like before I was even born. That's how my parents met. My mom auditioned to be his backup singer, and they're still together and they still sing together. And so I've been inundated with that, the musician life. So when you say that you came from a musical family, I totally identify with that.
Yeah. that's awesome though.
Although my parents wanted me to go to college. They didn't force me to get lessons.
Yeah. I don't really know where the piano lessons thing came from. But it happened. So
you started at an early age, man. They knew. They're like, this is it right here.
Right.
We need to make him a savant. Like right now.
And funny enough, like there's actually a picture of me from, I don't know, I was probably like maybe 2 or something, playing on some little drum set, some little like kid drum set that my parents got for me. Although I didn't really pick up drums until forever later, but anyway, foreshadowing.
Yeah.
So in middle school, I picked up the saxophone and then joined the middle school band. Just to be, I guess, a little more social musically, I guess.
Yeah.
So that was in the 8th grade. I also, maybe about a year later, picked up guitar and started playing guitar. So I was playing saxophone and guitar at the same time, basically. Trying to be a master of everything, and that not great at anything, that whole thing, not focusing or whatever.
Master of what was a master of all? Wait, what's the word? That there's a saying like master.
Right. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So
jack of all trades, master of none. That's what that
whole thing. Yeah.
Found it.
And
all right.
So
move
right. In the 9th grade, I played saxophone in the marching band in high school, and I saw the drum line. And specifically, do you know anything about drum lines?
I took, or like in high school, I took drums 1 year, and I said, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. And so from then on, I was like, I actually went into football, and I didn't really start really getting into drums until I got like a full-on drum set at 16. And because my friend had a guitar, and he's like, hey, we should start a band. I was like, I don't really know how to play the drums, but it sounds like fun. And so we would get together and we would just play drums or play in a band, and we do like Metallica covers and stuff like that. So I never really got into the drum line because I looked at it and go, I can't fucking do that. I'm not even going to try.
Yeah, it's a whole different world. And actually, side note, the reason I started playing guitar was because a bunch of friends of mine wanted to start a band, and I guess all the other instruments were spoken for, so I guess I'm playing guitar. So
that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, but
and singers too. Like, we don't have a singer. Hey, you can kind of hold a tune. Why don't you sing?
Right. Oh, I'll get back to that in a second. So I saw the drum line, and specifically the tenor drums, which for anybody who doesn't know what those are like the 4 or 5 or sometimes 6 tom drums that are like out in front of you, and you do like crossover, that whole thing.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was the coolest thing I had ever seen. So I went home and made some out of some buckets and proceeded to teach myself from what I could hear of like the drum breaks and stuff of the show. And had like one of my friends was actually on the drum line. He kind of filled in some gaps. So I was like, freaking playing the drum break on buckets. A few months later, I bought some tenors, some actual drums off of eBay, started playing those. And then I just, kept going with that. So I was juggling. I wasn't really playing drum set at that point, just kind of like juggling the marching drum thing and saxophone and guitar. And then a few years later, I actually did the drum line. I got good enough to actually do the drum line in high school, went on to do drum line in college, kind of dropped the saxophone thing, wasn't really keeping up with that as much anymore. So I was kind of focusing on guitar and drums at that point. And then it wasn't really until like my sophomore year of college that I really started playing drum set. I started like getting into like progressive metal, like Dream Theater and, all that kind of stuff. So it being like really coming from that like technical drumline background or whatever, like that stuff was always super appealing to me.
Yeah.
Like progressive metal thing. So that's kind of how I got into.
I think every musician goes through a progressive rock, progressive metal stage. I think because like there's a certain, when you're young, I don't know how old you are, and I'm not going to ask because if you can tell me, but whatever. 36. Look at that.
Oh, nice. Cool.
There we go. Mid 30s. Let's go. Like I think when you're young and you're, especially if you're in a band and you're trying to make it, quote unquote, and you just, you want to be the best version of a musician you possibly can. And it's, the only way past pop and regular metal and rock is progressive music, because it that's like the top one, and then after that would be jazz, but that's a whole different world,
Oh yeah.
You got to like grow up in jazz. Like jazz people, like they don't go from rock to jazz, they always go from jazz to rock or something like that. It's if a person that grew up with jazz, like they stay with jazz and they're just anyway.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've never, that's like my one weakness as far as drumming goes, is like you will never see me do any of the jazz stuff. That stuff is insanity. It's insanity. But what I was saying was like I think everybody goes through that progressive rock stage. I did. We had a progressive band. We were called A Beginner's Mind, which is like a Zen Buddhist kind of philosophy. And we had a story and everything. And I think what happened was, I think I've told this story before, but I think it's hilarious. We promoted the hell out of a show. We were like just on the streets. This is before like MySpace was a thing. So we were doing MySpace, but like actual physical promotion was what you did. You get out flyers at shows and whatnot. We were there every night for like 2-3 weeks. And the day of the show came up and we thought, it was going to be gangbusters, 150 people, 200 people. We thought, we're like, yeah, man, we promoted the hell out of this show. It's going to be great. And we're awesome. Yeah. And then the day of the show comes up and two people showed up to the show, and they were our friends and girlfriends and whatnot. So it was like, that was a big wake up call. That was a big wake up call to us. We're like, okay, no one likes this. Right.
Or at least our version of it. So we need to like it traumatized us, for really did, because we were all about like Mars Volta, Coheed and Cambria, Dream Theater. We were all about that progressive rock stuff. And then that happened and we went to like right after that, we went straight into like funk rock, like something very easygoing, bob your head kind of stuff. And actually really worked out. It really did. Cool. We actually started, people started coming in, and we had a, a little thing out here in Nashville, a tiny bit of thing. It wasn't like we got signed or anything, but, that was a traumatic experience. Realizing that doing the progressive rock thing, that's a really tough road to go down.
Yeah. So it seems like everything I write is always kind of rooted in like the progressive metal kind of stuff. And sometimes in my past, I've gotten a little too crazy. Like, I'm going to try and make this the most confusing sounding thing that I have ever played for no reason whatsoever other than just because. So I try to stay away from that kind of stuff.
No,
now,
but it lends very well because your syncopation in your drumming is like, it's very obvious that you did take like some sort of really heavy lessons and inspiration from like drumline and stuff, because you're your feet, like it's all perfect. It's great. It's just very,
thank you.
It's very clean, if I could say. Like that's really tough to do. I can't do stuff like that. Like I'll throw my body into something to make up for it, to make up for the lack of skill that I have. I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna, I can't do that. But what I can do is turn my arm as far as back as I possibly can and make it look like I'm,
right.
I think that, that I can do, that I can get into, I can throw my body into something, but nothing like what you can do. Like it's incredible. I love it. So you got on the drum set. Did you have you been in any like bands? Have you tried to do the band thing, or is it just all for the love of music?
Yeah. So, did the kind of like, whole garage band thing deal in high school, which is when I picked up guitar. Going into college, I was actually in a fantasy power metal band. I did not play drums in that, actually. So the guy, he goes by Zerain. He's in a lot of my videos. He wears like the lime green
the
visor.
guitarist.
Yeah. So side note, he and I have been in bands, for like the past 20 years or whatever. And he's like very heavily involved in the like those full on production things. Like he does like all the guitar recording and the video editing and stuff like that for me. So
okay. I was going to ask you if you had any skill in like video and as well, because your production is really good.
Yeah, we definitely tag team the whole thing, even though it totally looks like it's like 90% me. It's like it's not. Okay. 100% not. But anyway, so he actually played drums in the power metal band.
Oh wow.
And I played guitar, and we spent literally years looking for a singer. Tried a few different people, it never worked. And then one day we were recording some music, and he said, "Get in the closet and, record the vocal line." And so I did it, and like, "You're the new singer." So I had to learn how to sing and play guitar at the same time.
Wow.
So that was a thing in a power metal band.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Real quick, is my vocals clipping at all?
I think it sounds fine.
Does it sound good? Okay. All right. I'm just making sure, because usually like what Zoom does is they automatically put compression on your mic. And so it does it through the app. And so lately it just didn't do that this time. So I'm just making sure that everything is sounding good. Anyway,
I think you're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. A fantasy power metal band. That is it. I wish in my life that I could have done that. Instead, we went the new metal route. We were all about like Mudvayne in my early days.
Yeah, that's cool, dude. I loved Mudvayne in high school, man.
That was my jam for a long time. Yeah. Slipknot, Mudvayne, the whole new metal scene. I was all about it. I had the Jinko jeans. I had the caffeine pants. I had the freaking every shirt I had was a band tee. I had the fishnet stockings. I was all about it.
Yeah, I used to have this studded belt that I just rocked constantly. It's my favorite freaking belt in the world. And my Metallica shirt, of course.
You gotta have a Metallica shirt. So speaking of drums, and we'll get into your singing ability as well and see when you started singing, but like, what's your setup for drums? Because I know you're using pads and whatnot. What kind of setup are you using?
So it is at its core a Yamaha DT Extreme 3. And pieces of it have died over the years. So it has some other like I don't even know what they are, just a couple other Yamaha pads. So they kind generic of Yamaha pads.
You've been kind of just like Frankensteining everything together, like what a lot of electronic drummers that have done it for years do. Because even if you get a Roland, I mean, eventually these things will die.
Yeah. And the bass drum here, this is actually a Sonar bass drum. The kick pad died on this, so I made this bass drum. Well, I didn't make the bass drum. I I triggered the bass drum maybe like 10 years ago or something for one of the bands I was in. And I just put a mesh head on it and it works fine for this.
That's awesome. Like, did you get like those? Is it a trigger that you hit, or is it a trigger that you have on the side?
It is. So I actually made like a crossbar for the inside of it.
Okay,
and then,
so you went deep. Okay, that's what you're supposed to do to get the best like attack when you do your own triggering system.
Dude, I generally in life I overcomplicate literally everything I do. I always like to, create things and make things and whatever, and so case in point. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I love to pick brand because I'm not like that. I need it to work now.
Right.
And I have no patience to make my own shit.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if I have to pay $3,000, I will take out a credit card, I will buy the thing, and then if it dies, I'll buy another one.
Right.
Just that guy.
In my older age, I've come to value time a little bit more. So I don't always go the DIY route anymore. But if I actually think I might enjoy the process of creating the thing, then sure. But otherwise, no, I'm just gonna do that. I'm just gonna shell out whatever I need to so it just works.
Right. And so I wanted to ask, like, so you sing too? Like, have you always like just sung, or were you kind of forced into it, or at one point and just kind of stuck with it?
It's something that I just kind of dabbled in for a long time, which is kind of why I wound up singing in the power metal band. And I never really took lessons for it for the longest time. And I sang in the power metal band, which is funny because like I have like a baritone voice, so I have a much lower voice. Like everything I listened to at the time was like Dragon Force and Dream Theater and all these dudes that are just like all that kind of stuff. And it was just the farthest thing from my ability. So but anyway, here's this baritone dude singing power metal.
Oh man, did you wear a wig at that time as well?
No. I actually had hair back then, so I didn't have to do that. But yeah, so that I kind of got into singing because I was, thrust into it at the time. And then honestly, I kind of got out of singing because nothing I listened to ever had somebody singing with like my kind of voice. So I just thought, I'm not going to sing, I'll do background vocals or whatever, but, I'm just going to focus on drums and guitar and, stay in my lane, that kind of thing.
So but you have a great singing voice. You hold a tune, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Kind of fast forwarding a little bit. So maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, do you know who Jonathan Young is?
It sounds familiar. Remind
me. He is an artist on YouTube. He does a lot of original stuff now, but he mainly got known by doing anime and Disney covers.
Okay.
Like metal covers.
He's a singer, right? Long hair. Okay. Yeah. I know who Jonathan Young is. Yeah. He's great. He's fantastic.
Yeah. So he has a voice that is much deeper like mine. And so I heard him literally singing stuff that I wanted to sing. Like specifically, the first thing I heard him sing was a Live and Learn from Sonic Adventure 2.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
And I was like, holy crap, I can do this. I can totally do this. And so I, started singing again.
Yeah,
and that was actually working on it.
That was going to be my next question, because you're obviously a nerd culture enthusiast, and you've gone down this road of basically nerd culture musicianship kind of thing. And I want to know, like, have you always been like, what was the video game, the thing that made you go, okay, this is my thing? Not only is music my thing, but I'm also a big giant nerd, and I'm going to let everyone know it. And so
yeah, in my childhood, my parents owned a video rental store in the 80s and early 90s. So I've always been like around a plethora of like, physical media. and stuff like that. I inherited the games and basically whatever movie I wanted from the store when they closed it. R.I.P.
I know. Right.
So I've always been someone who like loves playing games regardless of what generation they are or whatever. So like I was playing the N64 and I still had my NES and Genesis and Super Nintendo and all that stuff hooked up. Like I just loved playing games. And then, I kind of went through the whole thing that most people go through where they get into high school and they like, get a girlfriend and, they don't really play as many games and all that kind of stuff. And, I still held on to everything, but I wasn't like, I'm a video game nerd, that whole thing. And so it was probably maybe like 11 years ago, something like that. I had always wanted a Power Glove, like my whole life. That was, for whatever reason, I saw it. Have you ever seen the movie Beethoven? It has like a big Saint Bernard dog, whatever. It doesn't matter. There's this like 4-second clip of this kid playing with a Power Glove. And I thought it was the coolest thing I had ever seen in my life. And it was like I saw this way past when it was discontinued and everything, for good reason. And couldn't find it anywhere. So whatever, fast forward to me being an adult and this local video game store here had one complete in box. And suddenly, like literally like complete. It even has like the mail-in, warranty card, like all that kind of stuff.
Oh my God. Like how much did they sell that for, if you don't mind my asking?
It was, I want to say it was about $90 at the time.
Only $90. Wow.
Yeah. This was when collecting was actually a thing you could do and, not spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. I can only imagine how much a Power Glove in box with the warranty information, everything like that could, I bet you it's like $900 at least.
Yeah. But yeah, so I got that. And it just woke up this thing inside of me like, this is awesome. I want to get this stuff that I didn't have as a kid that I always wanted as a kid. Whatever. I started getting into like the YouTube videos of like people hunting for games and collecting games and, all that kind of stuff. So, it's just kind of spiraled out of control over the past decade of my life. And I figure, now I should just lean into it. It's one of those things where it's like I really like enjoy collecting this stuff, but I want to play it, and I also like I feel like I want to share it with people. I don't want to be like, hey, look what I got, look at all this stuff that I got. It's like I want to share it with people so like other people can enjoy it with me, like that whole thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was never a big collector. I don't really have a big giant collection, but as the years go by, like I really do regret me like not holding on to the things that, especially now, because like it's impossible as far as like money to get these old games and gaming systems, like things that like $500 where 10 years ago they went for 20. And so like I feel like I've missed my window. I've held on to some, like my old Chrono Trigger cartridge, a bunch of other cartridges that I'm so glad that I kept. But like I never got into the whole collecting, and so I love seeing other people's collection, kind of just like envying the hell out of it all, and just be like, God dang it, man! I wish I freaking held on to my Sega CD. Actually, I actually do have a Sega CD, but my original one I sold. But I managed to get that one on eBay when eBay first came out. That was amazing.
Nice.
My Dreamcast is missing. I don't know where the hell that thing is. I'm pretty sure I sold it off, but I thought I got another one. I tried to look for it the other day, and it's like I thought I swore I had another one, but I can't locate it anywhere, which is kind of unfortunate. Because I fucking loved the Dreamcast when it came out.
Dude. Yeah, me too. Random side note, this is so strange, but I feel like $99.99 when the Dreamcast came out, I, for some reason, always use that as the date to figure out how old I was or when something happened. Like, you know, because I know that I was in 7th grade when the Dreamcast came out. So, okay. So high school was, you know, 2 years after that, or like, you know, so I always kind of use this as this like middle ground of my life for some reason. I have
totally
no
forgot
idea
that's
why.
when it came out. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's right. Wow. Yeah. I remember like that playing the Dreamcast for the first time. I remember specifically thinking to myself, oh, I remember looking at the blades of grass in Sonic Adventure.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you can actually see blades of grass. That's incredible. And and then Sonic Adventure was super fun too. But I specifically remember that moment where I was like, okay, this is the next generation of gaming.
Yeah.
I'll always remember that.
Yeah, definitely.
And the PlayStation 2 hadn't even come out yet.
Right. That's a whole other
other thing. The PlayStation 2 came out and was like, okay, it's over now. It's done. Yeah. This is life from now on. So what games are you like? Is there any specific genre that you're into, or like what kind of games are you into, or have been into, whatever?
Yeah. So recently, over the past few years, I've gotten into PlayStation 1 games. So a bit of history on me was I was a Sega Saturn kid. I did not have a PlayStation when I was a kid.
There's that war going on.
Yeah. So I was definitely a Sega fanboy at the time. And you know, the whole schoolyard thing, I wanted nothing to do with that stupid freaking PlayStation console. Which is so dumb. And so, which is so funny. Like nowadays, I hear people like arguing about like Xbox and PC Master Race and PlayStation, man. And it's like
goes on today.
I will play whatever game I want to on whatever system I want to get, you know, that experience on, you know, whatever. But anyway, so I never played like, you know, Final Fantasy VII or, you know, all these like Silent Hill or Resident Evil, like all these like classic PS1 games. And so I, over the past few years, have been basically playing PS1 games and then like some modern stuff.
So, oh man. So like, are you saying, excuse me, are you saying you haven't played, let's say, Final Fantasy VII, since that's the big game? You hadn't played Final Fantasy VII until much like recently?
I beat Final Fantasy VII for the first time last year.
Oh my God. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm actually interested in asking you that. So as a person that has obviously played like more modern games and modern RPGs and, you know, and the like, and going back and playing older, God dang it, older generation PlayStation games where, you know, they're a lot more grind heavy and the like, what was your experience with something like that? Was it like kind of like, okay, do I have to sit here for an hour and literally grind to get to a certain level so I can actually beat this fucking weapon? God dang it.
So really the grinding thing didn't bother me. The one thing that sent me over the edge, like I felt like I was losing my mind. It's so convenient nowadays to be able to be playing a game and stop whenever I want at any point in time and go to bed or go to the store or whatever. And it's like, no, where is the freaking save point in this game? I know I saw one. Where did it go? And then I spend 30, 45 minutes. Like my wife told me like 30 minutes ago, we got to go somewhere. So it's like, all right, screw it. I guess I'm just leaving this thing on for the next 4 hours.
Oh my God.
Like
it's something that just we take for so much granted.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah. And man, dude, I have a similar thing with older games. Like I recently played Final Fantasy VIII, and it's actually my favorite Final Fantasy for no other reason that it just hit me at a special point in my life, and I enjoy the story and identify with the characters and the adventure and all that stuff.
It's side note, I'm playing that right now, and I am really enjoying it. Yeah.
Okay. Are you playing so here's my question. Are you playing the remastered version? Like, okay, you're playing the old school PlayStation 1 version. Yeah. Okay, there's a lot of grinding in that game. And there's a lot of grinding. And back then, and you might have to do this, and it's okay. It's okay if you do this.
Yeah.
All right. I personally say it's okay. I don't give a crap what any other like nerd freaking on high person says you can't enjoy a game. I cheated. I cheated in PlayStation 1 games. I said not infinite life, but like fast leveling up, that sort of stuff. I did that in the original PlayStation 1 on Game Shark the hell out of it. And then when the remastered version came out, you damn well better. I freaking used the R1 and R3 like super max power thing to like go through these battles, because Jesus Christ, man, like these are like 100-hour games. But back in the day when you didn't have like, you know, the ability to auto save or, you know, fast forward, you know, a battle that you've grinded freaking fighting cactuars for like the, you know, 100th time. And it's just like, oh my God, you don't have time. Don't have time for this.
100%. Like I played Chrono Cross for the first time like 2 years ago. Yeah. It literally took me about a year to beat that game. Like I was playing other stuff kind of at the same time, but it took me about a year to beat that game.
You can get burnt out. You can you can totally get burnt out on playing those older games and just like, I can't, you know, I don't have time. I don't have time to do this. And then by the like the 6th month and you're playing this game, like you get tired of the story and you're just kind of like, okay, I can't even, it's like watching the same season of a TV show for 6 months. And you're just like, okay, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening right now. I need to stop and live my life.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. Like a lot of people complain about the length of games now. Like people will say, oh, this is only a 15-hour game. And I'm like, dude, like I love 15-hour games because I feel like that's going to last me a few months and it's going to be a good solid experience. You know, we're good here conclusion. Versus when I see something that says like 100 hours, I'm like, whoa, I don't know about that. So when you get older, man, and you know, the time constraint of like the fun stuff in your life, it shrinks, man. Because you know, you got a life, you got a wife, you got a house, you got a this, you got a that, you got a job, you know, and you got to keep a roof over your head, and you got to be an adult. You can't just sit in your basement all day and just you know, grind away like you were 10, you know, and let your mother and father deal with all your bullshit. Right.
You can't do that anymore. You have to actually take care of your own life. And so video games kind of like, and I actually had this conversation with a buddy of mine on my other podcast, God Mode, which honestly, funny, you actually remind me a lot of him with the beard and the hair, non-existent hair. No offense.
Oh no, I've committed to it. Like, you know,
look good. I'm saying you pull it off. You pull it off really well. See, like, I don't think I'd be able to pull it off very well. I don't think I could. Maybe I could. I don't know. The Stone Cold Steve Austin look, I don't know. I think I'd feel like I have to buff up a little bit. You know, just to be like that intimidating adult man that's just walking through the store. Like, I don't want to mess with that guy. He could Stone Cold Star me. But you know, it's like I had this conversation about. I think it was about Dark Souls. And I think it was about like the whole difficulty debate that always rears its ugly head every year. The Dark Souls makers come out with a game like Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and everyone's like, get an easy mode. And they're like, no, easy mode is not how you play the game. And you're terrible. And then you're terrible. And then the two sides just like clash. It happens every year or every time a Dark Souls game comes out. And so we were talking about that. And I'm sort of on the side of, like, I'm on the fence actually, because I feel like a game company should be able to do what they want to do without any sort of outside influence telling them how they should make their game. Yeah, absolutely. At the same time, the selfish side of me says I want to play this game, but I can't because I don't want to dedicate 100 hours into, or you know, pick your amount of time that it would take to beat one boss. Because you have to learn its moves and you got to learn how to dodge and roll and you got to level up and all that stuff. And so like, I just, the time that I have is now constrained. And so I now have to pick and choose which games to play, as opposed to back in the day where I can just, get them all and just, I had all the time in the world to play everything. And so, yeah. Oh no, it wasn't Dark Souls we were talking about. It was about first person perspective, which is something that I am strangely, I don't like first person games. That's a thing. It was about CD Projekt Red when they first said it was going to be a first person game.
I definitely prefer third person kind of games. I'm okay with the first person thing, but it's just not. I'm just tired of it. I'm just tired of it. It's everything that's come out in the past decade, is like first person this, first person that.
I'm not a video game developer, but I imagine, again, I don't know the first thing about video game programming, not one. So this might be coming out of my ass, but I imagine that a first person game is a hell of a lot easier to make than a third person game, because you don't have to really dedicate a whole lot of time to the character's animations as he's like punching or throwing a sword or doing all that stuff. There's a whole nother level of programming to make this character look cool doing mere actions like walking. In a first person game, you don't have that. All you're dealing with is other characters and moving the camera around. And then, so I imagine that's why we're seeing as a part of the reason why we're seeing a lot of first person perspective, like RPGs and stuff. And I'm just so not about that life. I'm so sorry to everyone who just can play first person RPGs. No, like I can't do it. I can't do it. And they're saying like, well, you don't get sick from it. It's like, well, a certain subset of people do get sick from it because, and they're like, well, it's like the immersion debate comes up. It's more immersive. Heavily disagree. I heavily disagree that first person is more immersive, just because it's not VR. It's not as if your TV is like up to your face. Right. It is, you're playing a box.
Yeah.
Because you're in your room. You have peripheral vision. You can see what's going on besides what's going on the TV. So you're not really immersed in the game. And that's what makes people sick, because
I have never, when I was playing a first person game, felt like, bro, I am this guy right now. I am in this game. Like it doesn't matter the story and like the environment, the presentation of the whole package is kind of what makes it immersive to me.
Yeah.
Like I can get just as immersed in like a third person, game than a first person game.
Yeah. And I think what's just a character's movement in general, I think immerses you, or like you can imagine, like, let's say you're just standing there, your character's just standing there, but the wind hits his cloak in such a way. So then you're imagining wind hitting your face. You can't do that when you're in a first person perspective. There's no wind. You see the trees move and stuff, but there's something about, like something hitting a character and you can just imagine it that way. I don't know. I didn't mean to go down this route.
Oh no, I'm on board. I feel you 100%. I'm right there with you.
But yeah, like I've had, I'm a weird gamer, man. There are things that I like that not like I'll totally cheat at a game. I don't even care. All this whole moral stance of like, you're not supposed to cheat at a game. You're not supposed to hack it. You're not supposed to mod it. You're supposed to play the game that it was supposed to be played. I'm not about it. I'm like, I paid $60 for this game. I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want to it.
Right. Yeah. 100% I agree. Like, especially in the retro scene, there are so many people that say you have to play on a CRT. You can't, stretch the image out, play it in widescreen. You can't do this. You can't do that. It's like, just play the game how you want to play the game. Like, just play the game.
Just enjoy it. Can I enjoy something?
Yeah. How you want to enjoy it. You enjoy playing it on an Xbox? Well, play it on an Xbox, man. If you want to build a $3,000 computer, go for it. That's awesome. Great.
Yeah. And I mean, I get like when you're playing, online and stuff. Yeah. Don't cheat. I mean, but that's goes without saying. It's like that's cheating. That's actual cheating. But if you're, if you don't got time to sit and grind for an hour and 40 minutes, and you just want to, God, you know what? I just want to just get through the story because honestly, at the end of the day, and I don't know if you're the same way, when I play a game, it's an escape. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It is purely an escape. It is not for me to be the best at gaming. It is not for me to, work so hard at a stage in, Mega Man or whatever and beat the game and get that satisfaction. Although that is a thing, that people enjoy. And that's a great thing about video games. But what's great about video games now in today's modern world is that games now, starting with the Super Nintendo, especially, like they were able to tell a story and really grab you mentally, as opposed to, when games first came out, when it was all about difficulty and high scores and arcade and quarters and all that stuff. Now it's, I really lose myself in a story and the adventure and the characters, as opposed to beating a boss.
Yeah, same. 100%.
Yeah.
Dude, we have so much in common with this
I know
stuff.
we really do. I told you. I knew it as soon as I saw you. I was like, I need to talk to this guy because he's a kindred spirit, and your family and your musicianship and like everything is like, this is my dude. This is my dude right here. So I'm so happy we're doing this right now, man.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Definitely.
Man, yeah. So we're talking about video games. Like, you're into the whole retro thing right now. Have you played, since you just beat Final Fantasy VII, have you played the remake version yet?
So,
or do you not have a PlayStation 4 or whatever?
I just got a PS5 like 3 weeks ago.
Congratulations,
something
man.
like that.
Like, oh my God. How did you manage to do that?
So here's what happened. I wasn't like actively like trying to get one or anything like that, but I apparently at some point in time last year, like before they came out, I signed up on Sony's website to possibly have the opportunity to buy one. And then, fast forward to literally like 2 weeks ago, I get an email that says, hey, if you want to buy a PS5, just use this link on this day and you'll be in a queue to check out and get one. And so I did.
Oh my God. That's incredible.
So yeah. I had just now kind of gotten to the point where there were some games that I wanted to play on it. So I was kind of, starting to scope it out. Even though I freaking hate the way it looks. And I told myself, that I was going to wait until there was a redesign or something until I got one, but clearly didn't happen.
think you can get your own skin. I think you can turn it from white to black. I think.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I think you can. Although I'm pretty sure it's from a third party or something. I'm pretty sure Sony doesn't make one yet. But because I think that would be really cool. It'd be a cool design black. Black with white trimming or black with red. Man, black and red that's my jam. Everything should be black and red.
Yeah, I feel you. I had a laptop once upon a time that was black and red. That was awesome.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. May not have ran well, but it looked fucking cool.
Right.
So you haven't got into the remake, and that I know I've talked about remake like so much and we don't have to get into it, but have you played, so what games have you played on the PlayStation 5? If you've played in any
I've played the new Ratchet and Clank.
Oh, right.
Which I really enjoyed that. Call me a child or whatever.
Hey man, but, you want to talk about retro? I mean, that's when it all started. It's like what PlayStation 1 was the first, or PlayStation 2. Was it 2?
2, yeah.
Yeah.
They just side note about that game, like the thing I love about that game is that it's just like they have created this environment. Like it's not just like, oh, we're in a forest doing some stuff or whatever. It's like they have like created this environment and characters and just like this whole presentation of the whole thing,
from the ground up.
Yeah, to suck you out of your life into this world. So I played that, and I'm playing through Resident Evil 8 right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that looks, I never got into horror games, or at least I did when I was on the original PlayStation because I could cheat.
Right.
Because it's freaking scary. And so like I felt like this cloak of protection whenever I I need to get a rocket launcher so I can take down some of these And not feel bad when when not feel like terrified when the dogs come out of the window. I still was terrified.
Yeah,
even though I had a rocket launcher, it was freaking scary.
Right.
It did the thing. It did its job to scare the hell out of me.
I did not like horror games when I was a kid. That was just too scary for me. I just didn't want to have anything to do with that. And my buddy Zarain, he actually got me into horror games. He loves horror games. He actually speed runs Resident Evil 2.
Oh wow. Like the original, the OG?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, he hasn't really been streaming that recently, but he used to stream that all the time, him speed running that.
Oh man. Those games, number one, super hard. Because they're survival games. They're not like point and shoot, and that's what you do.
Yeah, when you have to manage, like, I have 3 bullets, how am I going to use these 3 bullets? Like, that's quite a thing.
Yeah, the knife. Always have the knife handy.
Yeah. But he kind of got me into horror games maybe like 10 years ago or so, and I played like Silent Hill was really the first horror game that I played.
Wait, did you ever play the PT when it first came out?
That game, like, I still talk about that. Oh man. And like that triggers me so hard. Like, anyway, that's a whole different conversation,
dude. Let's get into it, man. Like, I'm not a horror game player, but when that came out, and
Did you play it?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay.
It's still on my hard drive and my PlayStation 4. And
side note, I totally did a backup of my PS4 hard drive onto a USB stick, and I literally have it in a safe in my house with that game on it, because I have so much anxiety about the hard drive dying and losing it. So here we are.
Oh, I got to do that. Actually, I probably should do that.
Right.
Oh man. I'm not a horror game player, but like I had some friends over, and this was when I was really getting into Markiplier. Markiplier.
I love Markiplier.
I mean, it's so freaking great. It's so funny just to see people just play horror games and just get the shit scared out of them.
Yes.
It's just there's some evil Joker like thing where you're like, I want to see the world burn kind of thing.
Yeah.
That comes up like, he's frightened. I love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so my buddies came over, and I was like, guys, and I just got the PS4. I just got it, and so like, do you have any games for it? And all my games were like Dragon Age and like RPGs that just aren't fun to people that don't enjoy RPGs. They just want to see explosions and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, this would be perfect time to draw the lights down and play PT. And so we played it. And it was so funny because like even they were frightened. They weren't even playing it. Horror games have that effect. They can suck you in, especially today's modern horror games where everything looks so good, and it's just, and everything's dark and the lighting is just right. And just the little baby in the sink and just like, dude, what is this freaking thing?
Yeah, man. When that came out, so I actually got a PS4 at launch, and barely played it. Like, there was, I don't know. I was just like, I wanted to have the new hotness or whatever. And there was literally nothing I wanted to play on it. So I don't know why I got it, but so I got it, and I didn't play it for honestly probably about a year. Embarrassingly, like, I kind of dabbled in some, I had like PlayStation Plus, so I played like the free things that came out or whatever, but and then when PT came out, that was the first thing that I played on the PS4. I was like, okay, this is the next gen here. We have arrived. Like, I was playing it at night, and that part when Lisa is down at the end of the hallway when you first see her, I was like, absolutely not. I am not doing this right now. I am going to I'm gonna go play Mario 64 or something, and I need a cleanse. I'm not doing this right now. So I actually stopped playing it right then, and then I didn't pick it up until like a few days later when I got the courage to walk down the hallway. Dude,
it's a travesty. It is a absolute travesty that game was never made. Absolute travesty, because that game would have shook the world. Just that 20 minute little presentation. It is just Yeah, it's up there with like name a tragedy.
Yeah.
Name your tragedy, because it's up there.
Yeah. And I actually had a similar experience. I brought it over to a friend's house. We had just like some dudes hanging out over there. And I brought PT with me, and we all turned off the lights, and I don't remember who actually played it, but one of my friends played it, and everybody else watched, and everybody was screaming and freaking out and stuff, and it was great. It was fantastic.
Oh man,
I
think
I don't know if you ever saw much about like some of the plans that were talked about for it, but
it's Kojima. Like it was just insanity.
He was talking about having like you potentially get like emails from the game, like based on like where you were or what was going on or whatever, to like pull you back into it when you're like out there in real life doing your thing, and suddenly you get an email from whatever in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I never got into Death Stranding. I felt like that's gonna be one of those things where I'm like, I have nothing else to play, so I'm gonna get into that, because I understand that looking at a game previews and whatnot, that doesn't make up what the game is, but it's just the whole idea of it. I was just kind of like, I might not enjoy this.
Let me give you an honest review of this game, because I did play through the whole thing, and I actually did really like it. I hate fetch quest games. Like, I hate fetch quests. I hate it.
I burning passion.
Yes. It's why I can't play MMOs anymore, aside from the time thing. That's a whole different thing, obviously. But I hate fetch quests. That is like Fetch Quest the game, basically. You are literally picking up packages and delivering them places. And that's that. But a lot of the things that you get along the way make that a lot more tolerable. As far as like the story goes, it throws like everything. It shows you the whole deck up front, like in the first 15 minutes of the game, and you're like, what am I looking at here? And then it slowly kind of unpacks the whole thing. So that was pretty cool. But I will say it's one of those things like when somebody tells you to watch a show and they're like, okay, hear me out, just get through the first season, and you'll be into it. It's kind of like that with the first 5 to 8 hours or so. It's kind of which I know is a long time, but
no, I mean, it's manageable. That's manageable.
Yeah, but once you kind of get into it and you start kind of like absorbing, it's definitely way out there. It is, it's Hideo Kojima, but it's pretty cool if you can you can kind of like wrap your head around all the weirdness that's going on.
I do love me some Norman Reedus, and then that freaking Walking Dead, that freaking show. We stopped watching. I know this is weird. I mean, did you ever watch Walking Dead?
So I still watch Walking Dead.
I mean, is it still on? We stopped.
Yeah. How much of it did you watch?
We got up to when Rick left.
Okay.
And at that point we're like, we're done. I can't keep doing this anymore. It's like, how many times can they move? Zombies, leave, come back, set up, calm down, move, zombies, and repeat the process over and over again. I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
So I read the comics. I'm a little behind on the comics. The comics are phenomenal. If you like that kind of thing, definitely worth it. It is like the show is like a Fisher-Price kindergarten show compared to some of the stuff that happens in the comic. It's actually pretty like, whoa.
Yeah.
They went there.
Yeah. I remember reading about was it Negan, or it wasn't Negan, it was someone else, the captain, the governor. Yes, I remember reading the panels, because I don't really read comic books. I never really got into comic books, but I did, because that was when the governor was the show was like, I wanted to learn more about this character, the governor. And I looked into some of the backstory of him and his daughter, and like how he kept her chained in there. And then like there's that panel where he like kisses her, and it's like a very weird kiss. It's not like kiss on the cheek. It's something else.
Yes.
And I'm like,
yes.
Okay, so this guy's a creep. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. He has lots of other issues too, which are extreme spoilers for anybody who ever wants to read that. But yeah, so the show, like later on, especially like once Negan gets involved, like I love Negan. He's probably my favorite character in the whole thing. He's great. The show takes like some stuff from the comics and like it's just maybe like a few pages and like turns it into a whole season, and it's like, come on. Can we just be done here? But the show actually got a new showrunner, I don't know, a couple seasons ago or something like that, like around the time Rick left, honestly.
Yeah.
So it does a lot of really cool stuff from the comics after that. Okay. So I will say that, but you know, it's still The Walking Dead. And I think zombies and all that stuff.
Yeah. You know, it's like one of those shows where like, okay, it's based on a comic book. The comic book's not finished. And even the show writers of the comic book said this show or this comic won't end until Rick dies. And so, you know, I will say this. I thought it was very cool of them when Rick left and how he left, because they couldn't kill him off, because then that would go against what the whole idea of the comic book is. So how he left, I thought that was kind of brilliant. And I was like, okay, so they keep him kind of in limbo, and like he can come back later if he wants to for like an episode or two. So he's happy. The actor is happy, you know, because he can come back and, you know, one or two episodes and leave, and vice versa. And I like that. But I think what happened with me was like that when the whole introduction of Negan, I think that was the turning point, because like, and this show is supposed to be like that, you know, you get attached to characters, and your favorite character might not survive, and that's the whole thing, like that and Game of Thrones and whatnot. But it was, I don't know, man. It was just like one of those things was like, I don't think I want to continue to watch the show if it's gonna like break my heart. Like
it's brutal. It's just, you know? That whole thing was brutal.
Not only do your characters die, but they die in the most horrific of ways, like getting torn apart by zombies, or Negan, you know, bashing their head in and eyeballs popping out.
Which actually, like, that is exactly the way that looked in the comic too. Yeah. They actually did that very well. I don't know if you've ever seen like screenshots of that panel from the comic, but I mean, like, same thing. But I don't know. It's a little more fitting in the comic, because the comic is just brutal like that the whole way through. Yeah, and I feel like the show isn't until then. It's like, whoa, that was rough.
You never really saw like something so violent. I mean, it's zombies, so yeah, violence is a part of the show, but nothing like straight up, you know, bondage murder, you know, essentially, like, and just that long drawn out process of like him, you know, pointing, and you're just anxious the whole time trying to figure out like, who's gonna go? Is anyone is someone gonna come in and save the group? Because that'd be awesome. But no, people are dying. Yeah, this is gonna happen. Yeah, and it happened. And so give me one
definitely
second. I need to change it's getting hot in here. Sorry about that. I had to turn on the fan just a little bit higher. It gets hot in here. Sitting down and talking, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, right. Dude, yeah, like this whole area, so like my game room is basically over there and my studio area is over here. So this is like a a bonus room.
I'm highly envious of your setup, man. Like I love the lighting. I love I saw that you have those shelves that is on my freaking list of things to buy when I am able to have my own little space, and just like those shelves that you can set up your systems and such. But that is on my freaking list.
I appreciate that.
I need to get that.
Yeah, that was actually another thing that I got those from Lowe's. They're just like cube.
Yeah.
Whatever's.
Did you
put wheels on the bottom of them?
Oh, you did. Nice.
And right now I have PVC pipe on the back of them for cables, because I thought in my infinite wisdom that was going to be brilliant, which seems brilliant. But when you have, however many consoles over there hooked up, you just have this freaking umbilical cord going across. It's just ridiculous. So
I have not figured out a good way to deal with cords, like that many cords. Like, because even my
living room. Let me tell you.
Oh, there's a way.
Let me tell you. I recently I recently saw this. I haven't done it yet. But you get a pegboard, like you'd see in like a garage or something that you hang like tools on or whatever.
Yeah.
And you put that on the back of your cabinet or whatever, and then you can zip tie all your cables anywhere on the thing.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That's a wow. Okay.
So I will do that at some point, but that's going to be an ordeal.
That's a project.
Yes, that's like a weekend project.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm super. I need to get some of those lights. I need to get some of those. I need to just up my game, man. I need to up my game.
Yeah.
Quite literally. Dude. Yeah, man. Is there any, like, I think I've gone down the list of my questions here. Is there anything in particular that you want to talk about specifically? Like anything that you like, you want to get off your chest? Anything you want to rant about? This is your moment.
Right. Random side note. So I realized this the other day. So your cover of Whoa, the CU podcast theme, which is awesome, by the way. I totally remember watching that when Pat tweeted about that.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. Like it clicked with me the other day. It's like, wait, this is the same dude that did that cover that I saw however long ago.
Dude, that made my freaking week, man. When he retweeted that, bro, I was like, fuck, man, that made me so happy. Like, I was just so, because I noticed that no one did a cover of that, or at least
dude, that song is so good.
It is so good.
Like, I haven't really kept up with the podcast over the past couple of years because I haven't been driving over the past couple of years as much.
Same. Yeah.
But like I used to listen to it constantly. So like every single line of those lyrics is just, it's like inside joke after inside joke. It's just, it is flawless. Reference. Yeah.
It's a brilliant,
and it's catchy. It's literally the best podcast theme I have ever heard. Like,
it's incredible. It's definitely one of the best, if not the best theme I've ever heard, ever. And so I was like, someone needs to cover this. And so I did. And there you go.
Yeah. So you win. It was great. It's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I haven't done any of those like really high production covers in a long time. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, dude, to do myself. And I don't have that, if I only had a partner to really do that, but at the same time, like, I don't like relying on anyone else to do at least I haven't found that person that's as into the stuff that I'm into and constantly can like work on stuff like that. So I think it's really special that you have a partner that can like help you with the camera work and like edit and like that's really cool.
So like about the camera thing. So actually my wife is filming the whole thing.
That was actually going to be my question. Is like someone's holding that camera. It's not a still camera going here. So that's really cool.
She has a really good eye for not only camera shots, but like moving camera shots and different things like that. Like
interesting enough, what kind of camera do you use?
An iPhone 12.
Are you serious?
Yes.
No shit.
Yes.
It looks so
insane, right?
Wow. I was actually having this conversation with my wife who wants to get a camera. We actually had this conversation because we want to like take pictures, and we have this whole thing. We want to get a farm eventually and have like a bunch of land and like horses and do all that stuff. And we want to like make like a little YouTube channel, like, hey, this is our farm, and that's future plans. But we wanted to get like a really nice camera and whatnot. And so we had this conversation, and I went into like the rabbit hole, as it were, to find like what's a good camera to get what it is. And like there are fantastic cameras, but the ones that are really nice are like $5,000.
Oh my God, it's insane. I have a buddy that streams full time, and he streams piano, and he has like, I don't know, 3 or 4 different cameras around him. And like the lenses on those cameras cost more than the cameras themselves.
Yes.
It's insane.
I have friends who are in the film industry, and he'll tell me like, oh, you should just get this lens. It's $1,800. And I'm like, yeah, who do you think I am?
That's where they get you. It's like $800 for this camera. It's like, all right. I mean, that's a lot of money, but and then,
manageable.
$2,500 for the lens for that sucker. It's like, oh
man, that actually makes me really happy that your stuff looks so good in an iPhone 12 camera.
Yeah, the only thing that we did was we got like a stabilizer, like one of those handheld
that's
stabilizer
things.
Must
get. Once I got my stabilizer for my camera, it just changes everything. Like it makes it look so much more professional. Yeah, just because it's so still, but the camera is moving. And just that little thing, that little thing. But stabilizers can be kind of expensive too, but not for iPhones, but like for like legit heavy cameras to get that really nice stabilizer. The stabilizers themselves are like $1,500 for like a DSLR camera. I'm like,
the one we got, I think it was about 190 or 100, something like that.
That's about right. That's a very manageable purchase.
Yeah. But yeah, iPhone 12. That's
awesome. So yeah, me and my wife kind of just landed on that because she has the iPhone 7, and I'm like, like we're talking about cameras here, but like I really think phones are going to get to a point where you really don't need a super high tech camera, and you have the convenience of apps right there on the phone. And if you get like really good at video editing on a particular app, you're golden.
Yeah. We use Filmic Pro.
I have the same one. I love that app.
Yeah.
That app is amazing. I discovered that app because I was looking for an app to take because iPhone, at least from like iPhone 10 or whatever, still can't shoot in 24 frames. So they could to give you that sort of slowed down movie look, that film look. And I was looking for an app that did it. Filmic Pro does that. It slows down the frame rate from 30 or 60 to 24, and I'm like, or whatever frame rate you want, and it does a pretty decent job of doing it digitally.
Yeah, that 24 FPS thing, like that is a game changer. Like everything that we filmed for a while was in 60, and it just looked goofy.
It looks like home movie-ish.
But the moment we flipped that setting, it was like, whoa, what's going on here?
We're in a movie. Look at that. Just from frame rates. And what's crazy, I had a conversation years ago with a friend of mine, and she's in the film industry as well, and we had a conversation of like how film has just never gotten off 24 frames, even though directors, editors have been trying to make other frames the setting like you see in films. It's been 24 for the longest time, even though like 60 and 180 and all that stuff is like looks all fast, and you'd think that with modern age cameras getting better and better and better, we'd want things to look faster.
Right.
But it's never changed from 24 to get that really crisp, film look. If that makes it, that cinematic look,
It's crazy.
It's you think about it.
It's like I know nothing about that kind of stuff, which is actually like funny that I'm like making all these videos. I should probably know more about it, but but here we are.
But that's the thing about again using iPhones and the technology that are in
Yeah.
these freaking things, they're at our hands. And as the technology grows, we don't really need to get too technical at a certain point because the apps do it for us.
Yeah.
And like, you could get like purist about it. Like a lot of people like to feel like they can get on top of a soapbox and say, this is how it's supposed to be, blah, 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 but at the end of the day, if you get the same result and you work less hard, isn't that a win?
Yeah.
It's like a win to me.
Like going back to the retro gaming thing, like I prefer to play all my stuff on original consoles, but that is not for everybody. That is a pain. It costs a lot of money to be able to do that, and maintenance and all this stuff. And it's like, you could just play this stuff in an emulator and be good to go. It's totally accessible that way. But I think that's, the beauty of that kind of thing is just like, do what works for you.
Yeah, well, I not to take away from the retro gaming community, which I feel like I have a little bit here, just in talking, and I don't want it to make it seem like that, a versus sort of situation. I think there's a beauty in older technology and remembrance of like, this is how, games were supposed to be played during this time. And you kind of get sucked into that, especially if you go the whole like CRT TV route, especially if you have it hooked up with the little coax cable in the back. You got to have it on channel 3.
Yep. All the video noise, all that stuff is part of the experience.
It's a part of the experience. It's like watching an old VHS tape, or even having a VHS player, or even better yet, having a Betamax player.
Right.
Remember that? Man.
Yeah.
Dude. Whew. Dude, have you watched the last Blockbuster on Netflix yet?
No, I want to. It's
so
been
good.
On my list of things to watch and just haven't done it yet.
It's so good. And considering your parents had a video store, was it a Blockbuster, or was it like a family-owned business?
So it was a family-owned business. My dad still is so bitter from Blockbuster. He was so thrilled when they, went out of business from Netflix
like,
or whatever.
Yes!
Yeah, finally.
The dragon has been vanquished.
Right. But yeah, I mean, they just couldn't compete, with the Blockbusters were just sprouting up all over the place around them. And, it was literally just my parents and maybe like one employee that ran this store. But
did Blockbuster at all, like, did they like contact you guys and like say, hey, we're about to set up a shop in, your area. It's either we can set up a shop and basically push you out of business, or you can become a Blockbuster.
Yeah, I highly doubt there was anything like that.
All right, because that's what was part of the documentary, is that they would often do that. They would often be like, there was another family-owned video store in the area, and instead of like building a place like right next to them and essentially pushing them out of business, they would say, hey, you can come work for Blockbuster. We can turn your building into a Blockbuster building, and we can actually work together, quote unquote.
Well, hey, that's cool. I didn't know about all that. I'll have to let him know about that. But yeah, so I mean, I didn't really rent games from Blockbuster until I could convince my mom that we could get a membership. Eventually my mom was like, okay, whatever about it, but I don't think my dad was ever thrilled when I would come home with a Blockbuster game. But
yeah, I guess that would be kind of tricky.
Yeah, so that was a whole thing. But I always like, whenever I was at a friend's house or something, we would go to Blockbuster. I say all this like their store closed in like the end of 92, beginning of 93 or something like that. So
okay, so it's not so much a hot it's like
right.
Enough time has passed.
Enough time. Yeah.
We're okay.
It was around the time the N64 was thriving that I was able to rent games from there, without conflict. So.
I never owned actually never owned a 64 because I was like a PlayStation fanboy. Although I was never like against the 64. I just loved the PlayStation so much. I had no need to go get a 64. But my neighbor buddy, my best friend at down my street, whatever, he had a 64, and man, I will never forget the time that he put in Ocarina of Time. And I was like, there was one time I distinctly remember we were in the middle of the game, and it's a part where you're the adult Link and you can ride on Epona. And you can like literally, I didn't do any missions or anything like that. I just rode around the land forest area on Epona, just shooting my arrow off the horse against like, you know, all the ghosts that would pop up. I would do that for hours.
That's good stuff.
it was amazing to me. Like that was the first time that you actually could like ride a horse on land and shoot a bow and arrow in a video game.
Yeah, I remember getting Epona and being just blown away that I was able to do that. Like I thought, no way, I can just ride this horse whenever I want and shoot. Like it was crazy.
It's such a simple idea that we just take for granted. But before that didn't happen. Like you had games that would have like sequences where you ride a horse. You have a stage where you're riding a horse, and then you get off and you're on the rest of the game. But never like Ocarina of Time where it was 360 movement. It was, you know, you could have control of the camera somewhat. And, you know, like, you know, you could see and explore in a 3-dimensional space. You know, that never happened before then.
Yeah. Dude, that analog stick was something else. Like it hasn't aged very well or whatever, but like, and you know, the controller is just quite a thing, but
it's not the most sexiest of controllers.
Yeah. But like I remember playing Mario 64 for the first time, and just like the amount of, you know, analog control that you could get. Like you just tilted a little bit and he would just like tippy toe and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like it was just, it was crazy at that time. Just, you know, that immersion level. And it's funny, like a lot of N64 games, they don't really compare to like even Mario 64. They just feel really clunky, but you can like really tell that they put in a lot of effort to just even the movement in that game.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's Nintendo. You know, they are masters at what they do, and they're the masters of small details that you don't think about. You know, and that's one of them is just movement is just so important. And you know, the 64 did so many things like the analog stick that forced other companies to go, oh, okay. So because the original PlayStation, they had analog sticks, but what didn't really like, they didn't like, the programmers of the games wouldn't have you move your character with the analog stick. They didn't really know what to do with it yet, you know? And it wasn't until the 64 came out and they kind of just showed everybody like, hey, this is what you use an analog stick for. And they're like, oh, okay. So from then on, there was a tiny moment. There was a first year of PlayStation when they first came out, like the analog stick wasn't really used at all. And I'm pretty positive it didn't come out at all until much later.
Yeah, that's right. So it came out with the like analog-less controller.
I think I remember having a controller with no analog stick.
Yeah, there's actually another version of it between the original one and the one with like the round thumbsticks. It has like concave thumbsticks on it. Yeah, I don't remember what the difference is. Maybe it doesn't have vibration or something like that.
Yes, that's right. That's right. They didn't start putting vibration in their controllers until much later.
Yeah,
man. Yeah. And what's also crazy, speaking of controllers, is you know, ever since then, like the PlayStation kind of controller and then the 360 like kind of made it better. When the 360 controller came out, and people argue that it's like the best feeling controller, and games really haven't shifted like as far as controllers since. And it's been like what, almost 20 years since the 360 came out.
Oh wow. That's insane.
Almost. I think it's almost been 20 years since the 360.
I want to say it was like 2005 or 6 or something like that,
like
somewhere around
around there. And just like they're kind of been the same. I mean, like they'll have like haptic vibration and stuff like that, but you got your triggers, you got your analog sticks, and you got your buttons, your 4 buttons. That's like 4 buttons. That's all you need. You don't need any more buttons than like,
dude, it's Sony nailed that controller, like with the 2 analog sticks. You can press them in. You got the 2 triggers on both sides. Like they nailed that controller, but unfortunately, nobody really knew how to use it until like many years later. It's like, well, now it's like, of course I can, move with this stick and move the camera with this stick. Of course that makes sense to do, but here we are, back in the day having 2 sticks and, not doing anything with them basically.
And I just love just the evolution of games and just the evolution of, it's such a, I got to get going a little bit after this, but it's something I do want to talk to you about or just, converse. Like there's, people ask me like, why are you so into gaming, and people who aren't into video games, like video games in the culture they're in, like video game is such a unique art form. Like it's not like a movie and it's not like a book, but it's one of those things that merge immersion just on the fact that you physically are interacting with it, as opposed to a book where you kind of have to imagine, and a movie where you're not imagining, you're just watching it happen. And video games say, hey, you can actually interact with the story. You actually have a part to play. You as a person have a part to play in this reality. And it's just so crazy to me that video games, like it's a thing now, like video games are now becoming like really like pop culture. It took years for it to happen. And so we all, us nerds back in the day, all this suffer, all the bullies because of it. So now it's all cool and shit. And everyone's like, yay, you're a video gamer. You have a YouTube channel. That's great. It's like, we didn't have to deal with that. Okay.
That's exactly right. It kind of reminds me of Star Wars. Like I vividly remember getting made fun of for liking Star Wars as a kid. But now, here we are, we have Star Wars land and everybody's like, woo, Star Wars, yay.
It's like with the blood that we had to shed for you to say that.
Exactly.
But do you feel like the same way? Do you feel like, because you went down this path and everything, like, video games are unlike any other art form? Like, what are your thoughts on what I just said?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's its own thing. It's like whenever somebody says, like they read a book and then they watch a movie and then they say, oh, well, the book just had all this other stuff in it that's just not in the movie. I mean, it's because like, the book is its own thing. Like it can't really translate, I mean, sure, you can adapt it or whatever, but you can't one-to-one it.
Yeah. And I think that might be the reason why not a whole lot of like the video game to movie thing hasn't been done very successfully. Sonic did pretty well, and then the Pikachu movie did really well. But those 2 movies, to my knowledge, are the only successful video game movies out of how many tries?
And that's an interesting thing, because it's like those movies have taken source material and they have basically made their own thing out of it. So it's not like you get this immersion, or whatever, like the same way that you would get from playing like a game of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just, it's this thing where you're trying to take something that is this thing and turn it into something else. And it's just not that thing anymore.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of like crazy how like the Assassin's Creed movie, like I never watched it.
I never even, I never
watched it, but I heard it was terrible. And I'm like, how can you fuck up Assassin's Creed, which is like the story is super cool. And like, you're talking about time travel, but kind of not really, but you're like using, and it's got, Michael Fassbender, who's a fantastic actor. Like, how can you mess this up? And like another movie that they keep messing up or don't bother to even make. And it's just such a simple idea that, okay, look, Street Fighter. Okay. I actually do really enjoy the Jean-Claude Van Damme version because I'm a huge fan of Jean-Claude Van Damme. Anything, just like
Yeah.
give me high roundhouse kicks, I'm there. Just unrealistic high roundhouse kicks, you got me.
Yeah.
And the splits and whatever. I actually secretly loved the Street Fighter movie because it was so bad. It's so bad it's good. It's in that thing.
Right.
But like even with that movie, and the reason it's goofy, but even with that movie, they, you know, they at least kept all the characters, at least the characters that you know and love, and you're like, oh, they got freaking you know, I guess Cammy? No, it's not Cammy, right? Cammy was her name. Yeah, I think it was Cammy. Yeah, the blonde.
I'm blanking. It's been so long since I've seen that movie.
But you know, they got Guile. He did the high flip kick, and I was like, that's what you do.
There it is.
That's what you do. Anyway, they haven't like bothered to do another Street Fighter movie. They came out with like The Legend of Chun-Li, and I'm sitting here thinking like, no, she's a detective, and it's weird, and there's guns, and just like,
oh wow, this? I never even heard of that one actually.
It's exactly my point, because like it's not freaking Street Fighter.
Yeah,
Street Fighter is a tournament of fighters fighting in the street. That is it. That is all you need to know. There's no other thing that we need to do. It's like a tournament of fighters, enter the dragon, do something else. Like, it's not freaking hard.
Right.
Like, I'm not a producer. I'm not a director. I'm not a filmmaker by any means. But like, bro, I can write up a story for you right now. Yeah. And I just get the right people, and you got yourself a freaking kung fu movie.
Right.
Isn't it hard?
Speaking of that movie, one of my favorite things to come out of that movie is Street Fighter, the movie, the game. Have you seen that? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just
what
so
a
ridiculous.
Weird amalgamation of just events that Street Fighter, the movie. So they make a movie off a game.
Yeah.
And then they make a game off the movie that made a movie off the game.
Exactly. Brilliant. Love it.
And actually, apparently the arcade version is actually super fun.
I've actually heard that. I haven't played it.
Apparently the real arcade version is actually really good. And then like the ports are terrible. But like, I think it's just funny because it was like digitized actors like Mortal Kombat, but it played like Street Fighter.
Yeah.
So interesting. Very interesting set of events to occur in the video game world that I wish actually would happen more often. We need more weirdness. We need more weirdness in games.
I totally agree with that. And like,
you know?
I think back to like the Dreamcast and like the library on the Dreamcast and like how weird so many games for it were. And yeah, I mean, there was just like, they did all kinds of strange stuff, and like it worked.
The original Shenmue, you know, like when Shenmue first came out, I love that game, but a lot of it is you're just walking around and just talking to people. You're like, there's hardly any action in it, but I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved that game.
Like, I'm gonna go get some money and I'm gonna put it in this little capsule machine, and I'm gonna freaking look at this little dude that I get out of it. Yeah, I got a Sonic. That's great.
No, it's like then you fight in the arcade, and there was no fast travel. I did a whole video game review on it like years ago, because that was when the Shenmue 3 had just been announced, and we've been waiting for that for forever, and then finally it was announced, and like people lost their shit. And so I was like, I want to go back and get the remaster versions, and I did, and I played them, and they still hold up, man. I like, even though there is no fast travel, it was brilliant what they did, because when they didn't give you the ability to fast travel to, you know, to locations, it forces you to like look at and be immersed in this world that they created, which makes you feel like you're in a living, breathing world, because you're walking through, and like the people are walking, and like everyone has their own lives, and you can talk to every one of them. And to my knowledge, that was the first game where you actually had voice acting for every single NPC, every single character. It wasn't just text. You know, every person had a voiced. It wasn't great voice acting, but you know, it was just like, you could talk to these people and hear their voice.
There were just like actual personalities everywhere around you.
Yeah. And it was the first time I ever experienced anything like that. Like, it's an open world game not but completely unlike the other open world game that came out right after that, which was 2001 or 2002 when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out. I am pretty positive that Shenmue is the first truly open world game that we actually can recognize what an open world game is.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else other than that. I mean, that was definitely the first one that I played like that.
Yeah. And again, one of those times where like it's pretty impossible to make this a movie, even though they actually did make a movie, but they made a movie off the actual game footage. Like if you bought the sequel Shenmue 2 for the Xbox, which came out because it was supposed to come out for the Dreamcast, but the Dreamcast didn't do very well, so they had to port it to America somehow, and Xbox was a thing, and so Xbox said, hey, you can import it to Xbox, and once you bought it, you actually got an hour-long or hour-and-a-half long movie of the original game, the original Shenmue, on a little disc.
That's a good idea. I like that.
It was awesome.
The recap there.
I watched
That's
that thing.
Great.
It was like a real movie. It was great.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like something like that just I don't know how you could the biggest thing about that game is walking into that world, and like you can look around and interact with all these different things. And I mean, like if you were to turn that into a movie, you can't, like, sure, you can show somebody doing all that stuff, but it's not the same as like, man, what toy am I going to get out of this machine here?
Yeah. Or like, I said this in my review. I was like, you guys don't understand, like when you're making a game and the details matter, like those small details. And this is what good video game directors do. They think about the small details.
Yeah.
And especially during 1999. This is 1999, by the way. This isn't modern day where, all those things have already been thought of and you just build on, the scaffolding that exists. They had to make new scaffolding. And what Shenmue did, just the details that I'm talking about, is the fact that you can open up every drawer of your house.
Right.
Like, just you can open up the drawer and look in there, and then some drawers had like secrets, and some and you can do that with other buildings as well. Open up every door, and even the doors that you couldn't enter, you knock on the door. You interact with something that really it's not it's designed to do anything, but just the mere act of the character actually just like knocking on the door says something about the world.
Yeah, exactly. And like, who would want to watch a movie where somebody's walking around opening drawers for 30 minutes and knocking on all the doors, But I like that decision to do that. I think that is what is awesome. Like, I mean, even going back to PT, I made the decision, I'm not walking down that hallway, but if I was watching that as a movie, it just doesn't do the same thing. It's that sense of terror is just, I mean, sure, it's still scary, I guess, but you just don't get that, like, this is actually in my control and I'm going to choose to go that way or not go that way. That whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, man, I gotta get going, but man, this has been such a great talk, man. I'm so glad that we got to do this and like hang out and stuff. And like, I would love for you one of these days, one of these podcasts. Sometimes we have like a little group, podcast or whatever, and we just like all just talk over each other and just have fun and talk about games and other things. I'd love to invite you to one of them because I think you'd be great on it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, one of these days. That. Maybe we'll do like a D&D campaign. I've been trying to wrap my head around like, can I do that? Like, it seems so time intensive, but it looks so much fun. I never got a D&D, but one of these days I will.
Yeah.
But Michael K, thank you so much for doing this, man. This has been a lot of fun. Please, everyone, subscribe to his TikTok, his YouTube, his Instagram, his Twitter. It's just Michael K. You can see it right here. I'm gonna put it in post. It's right there. See his thing right there. Subscribe and do all that stuff because he's amazing. It's incredible.
I really appreciate that, brother.
Yeah, dude. Not a problem. Well, thank you so much, man. And I'll see you all later. Until next time.